How do you optimize your real estate portfolio, and what does that even mean? Well, the way I see it is that your real estate works for you rather than you working for it. It's passive income that makes the difference. Having enough time and money to live life the way you want to. That's the ultimate goal, to create passive income. And is that even possible in today's market? Well, that's what we're going to talk about on today's episode. I'm Kathy Fettke, co-founder of Real Wealth. We've been helping people acquire cash flowing real estate in the hottest growth market since 2003. And I'm so excited about this topic because when I started real estate, I was on the hunt for passive income. I didn't know anybody who had it, so I was on a mission to learn what it is and how to get it. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about if it's even possible today. So first, let's talk about the kind of real estate that's passive versus active. First, we all know about flipping houses. There's so many TV shows on how to flip houses. It's what most people think about when they think of investing in real estate. I want you to know flipping is not a passive investment. That is very active. You first of all have to find the property at least 30% under market value. Then you've got to know how much work needs to be done on that property and make sure you get the most accurate bids. And then you've got to be able to sell it for a profit, pay off all the debt and all the costs and all the expenses. And as you see on the TV shows, that's not always the way it goes. You can certainly take losses, even though you worked really, really hard on that flip. Of course, you could make lots of money too, but it's not passive. Is it possible to be a passive flipper? It actually is. There's a few ways you can do that. If you want to be in the flipping business but don't want to do any of the work, one way to get involved passively is maybe to be the lender. Maybe you lend money to the person who finds the property and does the work and then sells it, and you split the profits however you determine that that's done. That's one way, being a private lender. Another way is being a JV partner. Again, maybe you're the one who goes on the loan to get the money to do the deal, but somebody else does the work. So just because you might be in the flipping business doesn't mean you're the one doing the active work. But generally, flipping is active, and therefore the government sees it as active, and you'll get taxed on those profits as ordinary income. Now, another thing that a lot of people do is wholesaling. Well, wholesaling isn't exactly passive either. It's an active business because you are indirectly in the buying and selling business. It's kind of like what an agent does, which is buying and selling real estate. And that's an active business. That is not passive investing. Is it possible to be a passive wholesaler or a passive real estate agent? Maybe if you own the brokerage or you own the company and someone else is doing the work. Actually, Rich and I just wrote a book on this for BiggerPockets called Scaling Smart, How to Automate Your Business. That's coming out in September. So check that out. Scaling Smart. It can show you different ways to own a business where you're not actively involved in the day-to-day, and that can create passive income for you too. But if you're the one doing the work, that is not passive. Now, another very common way to get passive income is by owning rental properties. But if you're doing the work of finding the property, renovating it, getting the loan, it's not super passive. It's certainly not 100% passive. You still have to do work. Even during the life of that property, you've got to work with property managers and the insurance agents, and there might be repairs. And you've got to make sure that the bid for those repairs is accurate and then done well. So owning rental property is definitely not 100% passive. It's pretty passive. And that's what we tell our investors at Real Wealth is you're almost passive because most of the time you're not doing much, but there's certainly work involved in owning rental property. One of the ways to eliminate some of the work, again, is to have maybe a manager in charge of your portfolio or have somebody else running it just like they'd be running your business so that it's more passive for you. But as long as you're the one, again, overseeing the property manager or even managing the property yourself or making sure that the insurance is still intact and all the things that it takes, is definitely not passive, but more passive than flipping and wholesaling. Now, one of the most passive ways to invest is through syndications. Basically, that's a group investment where there's a manager, basically a GP, a general partner, and then there's the limited partners, which would be you, the passive investor, investing in their deal. Now, that is regulated by the Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC, more than the Department of Real Estate. Well, it's regulated by both, but it is a security when you hand someone your money and you do nothing but invest the money, then it becomes a security. So that's why the SEC requires that for you to be a passive investor in a syndication, you do need to be accredited. Well, that doesn't mean you have to study anything. I think it should. I think an accredited investor should have to take a test to prove that they understand what they're investing in. But that's not the way the SEC defines it. They just want to know that you have enough money that if you invest in the deal and it doesn't go well, you won't be set back too bad, that it would just be a loss of that investment, but that you can still survive with the other money that you have. The SEC would prefer that you only invest about 10% of your net worth into a deal like that. I would say even less. But in a syndication, you are completely passive because somebody else is managing that deal. And in the operating agreement and the PPM, it'll explain who has different duties, and you don't have any. Your only duty is to invest your money. And that's why in a syndication, you want to make sure that the manager of the asset that you're investing in really knows what they're doing because they're doing all the work. That would be the same if you're doing any kind of JV deal, joint venture on a flip or a BRRRR or any other kind of project. If you are investing totally passively and someone else is managing the deal or your money, you better really understand their track record and know that they can handle investing your money for you, that they have the track record and the experience to pull off the deal. Now, there are ways to make investing in long-term rentals a little bit more passive, where you maybe buy turnkey. That's what we've been helping investors do at Real Wealth since 2003. Because we're from California and it's really hard to find cash flowing properties in California. So we've been kind of forced to learn how to invest passively out of state because we can't be hands-on actively involved with our properties because they're many states away from where we live. So in order to invest out of state and keep it as passive as possible, one way to do that is buy a newer home, one that's going to have less repairs because it's brand new, it's up to new code, it's hopefully up to, say, hurricane standards if it's in Florida, or it's been totally rehabbed to like new condition. So all those big ticket items have been replaced. That's how we define turnkey, is not just slapping on some paint and rugs, but really replacing everything so it's like a new home. Now, if you truly want to be a passive investor, maybe you don't want to have the goal of owning 100 single family rentals or 200 single family rentals or however many doors people want to own. That is a lot of management. And unless you have somebody in charge of your portfolio managing it all, that's not going to be passive. That's why a lot of people will move into, say, multifamily, because they can buy one building with 100 units instead of 100 houses spread out. Now, multifamily is not for everyone, but that is one reason why different investors will scale from single family to multifamily. Another way to scale and be a little bit more passive is with a triple net lease. And this is in commercial real estate as well. And that basically means that maybe you own an industrial building or an office building or a retail center, and the tenant says, we're going to just take this property as is. Any upgrades we'll take care of. We're going to pay for the taxes, insurance. We're going to pay for everything and just rent it from you on this triple net lease. But triple net lease projects don't necessarily cash flow as high as some others because they are so safe and secure. Again, another way, like I mentioned earlier, to invest pretty passively is to be a lender. So let's say you just want to lend on a commercial building and you can get a 5 or 6% return if you're in first position at a low LTV. So that's a pretty secure investment if it's a low LTV, but not maybe a really high return because there's so little risk in it. So is it possible to invest passively in today's market? Based on the kinds of investments that are passive, like being a lender or doing buy and hold or investing in syndication, of course you can. There's so many ways. For example, there are people out there who would love to flip homes. They're out there trying to find deals. They've got their teams in place to do the renovation. They just need the money. And they would be willing to pay as much as 12% per annum, maybe even more, plus points. So private lending is a great way to be passive, but you've really got to know what you're doing. It's not something you just write a check and hand to somebody. You want to make sure you're secured in first lien position, ideally, and that you really understand the value of the property, just like a bank would. They want the appraisal. They want to know exactly what work is going to be done. They want to know what the after repair value is going to be. So you got to treat it like you really are a bank and have those things in place. Plus, you want to be the additional insured on the property for the insurance that they get. So if anything happens, if someone slips and falls, you're covered. Can you invest in syndications today that are totally passive? Of course you can. If you're investing with an experienced real estate investor, they are able to find deals all the time in any market. I know we are. We've got got a build to rent community that we're doing in San Antonio. That's going to have a 12.5% preferred return. We have another development deal in Klamath Falls, Oregon, where we actually got an option on the land. We don't even have to buy the land. We're getting the lots for half the value. We get to build the homes and pay for the lots at close when a buyer comes in to buy that house. So risk is really low, and we're giving a 12.5% preferred return on that. I know there are investors out there buying multifamily because we've seen multifamily values come down because there's so much stress in the commercial real estate world because of high interest rates and high insurance costs. So there are deals to be had, and really good multifamily operators are finding great deals today. You can invest with them passively in their syndications while they do the work, and you get usually a preferred return, which means basically as profits come out, you get your capital back first, then you get your preferred return, whatever that is. Preferred means you get preference to them getting their money, you get it first. And then there's a profit share at the end. So why would you want to be a passive investor versus an active investor? Well, there's all kinds of reasons. There's people out there who really love their jobs. Maybe you're a professional athlete. Maybe you've got a career in the tech industry making a ton of money. Maybe you're starting your own business or you have a successful business. There's so many reasons why people would love to invest in real estate, but they don't have the time to do the work, but they've got the money to invest. And they maybe feel more comfortable in real estate because of all the tax benefits and because it's a solid asset versus maybe putting all their money in the stock market into companies that they can't really see, touch, or feel. They're just depending on the stock market to continue to go up. And what does passive income give you? It can give you free time, less stress, and steady income. Well, as you can see, there's all kinds of ways to optimize your portfolio to fit your needs. If you don't have a lot of money to invest so that you can get passive income, you might have to be active for a while. That's how so many of us started. I started with Rich and I buying our first house. You can get an FHA loan with just 3% down. We house hacked. We rented out every room in the house to bring in more income so that we could own that property. And when the values went up, we refinanced and bought more. That is one of the ways you can scale your real estate portfolio to get to a point where you have passive income by doing the work in the beginning, creating that equity growth, taking that money and buying more, creating more equity growth, 1031 exchanging into more, and so forth and so forth. It can take some time, but listen, time does pass either way, so you might as well be building a portfolio along the way. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me here. I'm Kathy Fettke. You can find me on BiggerPockets and also on the On the Market podcast. I hope this video helped explain the difference between active and passive investments. And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. It really helps a lot. Plus, you'll be the first to see any new videos that come out on BiggerPockets. Again, I'm Kathy Fettke. We'll see you next time.